All right, y'all, let's get into it. Week 175. In this video, we're going to talk about the interest rate hike that is coming tomorrow. Well, likely is coming tomorrow. We're going to talk about what's happened to sales, especially for houses, and most importantly, where does supply sit right now? And as I talked about last week, where some opportunities lie and where some sellers are still doing well, and you'd be surprised as to where that might be. It's different than last week a little bit. I have revised that. So let's get into it. What was the first thing I said? Interest rate hike. Tomorrow. July the 12th most likely is going to be the last interest rate hike unless there is some sort of major economic news that comes about that somehow triggers inflation to go on a run, which would naturally pressure the Bank of Canada to continue to increase rates. That would be absolutely catastrophic for our market. People are literally at their breaking point right now. And it's really, I guess it's really not that dramatic, but some people, like, listen, I'll use myself as an example. I got a note from TD Bank. I have a pretty phenomenal mortgage. I've been on a variable but fixed payment situation for a long time. My payments haven't changed this entire time. And I guess part of this was me bragging about this last week because a couple days after that, I got a nice little email from TD Bank telling me that we have reached our trigger point and that my payments are going to have to increase unless I come up with, a few $100,000 to put some more equity in there in my property. That's a pretty big jump, 67% jump in my monthly mortgage payment, which is not a small amount of money. I'm going to figure out a way. I mean, it's not going to be a break point for me, but it certainly will for some. And what does that mean? I guess we're not really waiting for renewals, right? At this point, there are a bunch of people on variables like me who took out mortgages in 2020 and 2021, especially 2021. If you did it in 2020, you would have reached your trigger point already. But for me and many others, their payments are going to go pretty damn high. So some of those people aren't going to be able to hang on to their properties. Now, the big question is it, are there going to be enough people that have to unload their properties where it somehow floods the market and it actually affects prices? I mean, I don't think so. It's not likely, but there are going to be some people that are in serious trouble and they're not going to be able to figure it out. And it's not some B lender that's going to come to the rescue either because their rates would be even higher. So it's not a matter of, doing what you can to hold on. At this point, when some people's mortgage payments increase by 67%, that is not something you can just figure out in some cases. In a lot of cases, it is something that can be figured out. So let's not forget that, okay? People will still do whatever they can to hang on, but some people won't be able to. The big question is, number one, the people that are cheering for that sort of situation are absolute assholes. And I just don't understand how you can be happy about a market crashing like somehow it creates opportunity for you. It doesn't. It just shows how, uneducated and unwilling some people are to actually learn about how markets work. And some agents who still call themselves professionals really having these I told you so moments, like we weren't all talking about this anyway, and somehow confusing the conversations that some people are having with, don't worry, prices always go up. When, nobody with any sort of brain cells really is saying that. And, maybe early in my career I might have believed something like that, but there's so much more to it than that. And, I have been wrong in the past with some things. But overall, when it comes to real estate prices in the short term, things can change. And, in the next few months, this summer, if you don't need to sell, you shouldn't. And for now, for the third week in a row, house listings have actually pulled back. So we have, right now, we don't have people flooding the market. We have the exact opposite. Even though sales are down dramatically, we have the exact opposite of what some people think is going to happen. We do not have a flood of listings. Does that mean this fall we will have a flood of listings? It's entirely possible that this fall we will have a whole bunch of listings hit the market. Can we absorb more listings? Honestly, no. This market cannot handle a flood of listings and still be okay for sellers. If we do get a flood of listings this fall from people that cannot hang on to their homes because they've reached their trigger rate, then that will be a problem for the market in the short term, and my comments about the bottom being behind us would be completely invalidated because prices would dip beyond where they were in December when they kind of bottomed out. I don't think that is a likely scenario, but it is a possible one, certainly not a probable one, but it's there. So, Let's put that out there as a possibility. Now, you know, condos are kind of interesting right now because they have again added on where we're now approaching 2,100 listings. The last time we were north of like 2,200 was as we were digging out of that COVID slump early on in COVID in 2020, heading into 2021. So, but prices don't really seem to be affected that much yet. We still have good activity in the condo market. It's just showings are way down. Like we have a listing at 103 the Queensway right now. Like we've had like, you know, a good amount of showings, but not as many as I thought we would have. And many other agents are experiencing the same. But where sellers are doing well right now are in like really big end user type of homes. Like think High Park, Roncy, North Riverdale. Like these neighborhoods are generally doing very well when, you know, considering, you know, other neighborhoods that aren't during these slowdowns. But like people are spending all kinds of money on homes in any condition. In fact, homes that need more work tend to be selling quicker than homes that don't need any work at all, which is very interesting. So there is money flowing in some places because listen, I know I've got clients in that space right now. They can go up to like $2.5 million and then spend another $1 million on a renovation. These guys have an awesome pre-approval that expires in September. So what's gonna happen after September when a lot of these blocked in pre-approvals go away? So the fall market may not be as intense as I had once predicted it would be, but I do think there is another market sort of run coming. It's just when. I assumed it would be this fall, but I really think it might be pushed a little further out than fall. So if you are thinking about selling, I would be ready for fall, but I would be prepared to push that into the winter as listings hopefully die down and don't fully populate the market. But very interesting couple of months ahead of us right now, a couple of weeks ahead of us tomorrow right now. I'm really curious to see how people react to the rate hike tomorrow. But the fact that people have been talking about it for so long, the fact that like it's not really much of a surprise, I think the only surprise here, oh, my camera's shaking, sorry. The only surprise would be if they don't actually increase the rate tomorrow. What do you think would happen then? That's an unlikely scenario that the rates do not go up tomorrow, because if they don't go up tomorrow, then we'll have the same story in September when we're talking about increasing rates in September. But I really would rather have the Band-Aid ripped off now and then have some months of runway to kind of level out and figure finances out and figure budgets out and see what's going on. So anyway, if I'm a buyer right now, I'm really still moving forward and focusing on my lifestyle, but making sure that I'm not maxing out the purchase. Having a reserve fund right now is probably the most important thing because you never know what's going to happen down the road. But maxing out on your pre-approval is not a good idea right now. And making sure that you're in deep contact with your mortgage broker just to make sure you can still go ahead with that purchase and your pre-approval rate that you have actually falls in line with the closing date, not the offer date of your property. So there's a lot of moving parts right now, and you need to be in the hands of an absolute professional crew from mortgage to lawyers to everybody. So anyway, I'm going to keep this relatively short again this week. I'm going to try and go under 10 minutes from now on, but we'll see what happens. But long story short, I think that most people just need to calm down, not consider going to the market. If you don't need to make a move, don't make a move. But if you're a buyer and you have some cash handy, I would probably sit around and see what's available to you. There's some really great deals in the assignment market. Again, after a bit of a run, assignments were making, they were selling well for a little while. But right now, opportunities do exist in the commercial space. They exist in the mixed commercial residential space. They exist in the assignment space. They're going to start to exist in the condo resale space as well. But you know, nicely done houses and condos are still going to sell very, very well. But like I said, houses that have that need a ton of work are moving way better than I thought they would right now. Although developers' money has generally dried up. Developers are trying to offload some properties right now, but end users are looking for solid school zones, looking for solid big properties they don't have to move out of. So that is still a thing. But listen, no matter what happens out there, buyers always be buying and sellers always be selling. So let's not get too dramatic about this whole thing, and I'll see you in week 176. Comment below. Let's go.